And we're live.
We are.
It's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
But he took me out for Sakis. And
Yeah.
so here we are.
So,
What are we going to talk about?
hey, we have no clue. You see the title. I put a bunch of hashtags. So, date night. Hope you see the shirt. Give a shout out to my boy Shane McKay. Want you to see it. It's the sheep with the mask on it.
Not doing it.
So it's a statement. Let's talk about what's so. We got he is greater than I. He is greater than I. So my hat, it says famous enough. And it also says that I'm famous enough because I am known by God.
Okay,
That's what's up. So we hadn't been on here in a while.
Together.
We had been talking about it. I did a live earlier today, talking about how if you know more, you would do more, right?
You'd think.
You would think, or if you know more, you wouldn't act the same way you acted prior to knowing the information that you currently know.
But sometimes we hold on to those truths.
Because we have habitual thoughts, which leads to habitual actions, which leads to habitual results. So I was telling people earlier on my live video that, hey, here's the thing. It was things I didn't know. So when I was growing up, no one had done the things that I had been doing when I turned, I'd say 17, 18 years old. People hadn't done what I was doing. So when I went to those people to ask their opinion, they instantly operated out of fear. So we think about these times right now, and a lot of, like, you got that.
Here's what I've realized. So
Go
this is
ahead.
what I've been thinking. Yeah, I've been like going through this, like going crazy. Social media has been tough. Like there's been I've had some nasty things said to me. Things like, oh, here's another white woman that thinks she knows something about black people because she's married to a black man. I'm sorry, we've been together for 25 years. This wasn't a political move. This wasn't it's a cool thing. Like, I'm with him because of the person he is. Like, that's it. And, like, we live a blessed life. And what's unique, what I've realized is a lot of people, they actually don't really change. How you came up, so you grew up in LA. You grew up in where you grew up, the hood. Mm-hmm. And then you've had your progression through life where you now live in a completely different place, a completely different world.
Completely different. It's just.
And the thing, you talk about this a lot, the truth that your mom taught you when you lived in the hood was the truth. And it was the truth when you walked out the door. But when you got to open it, he's going to cry. My dog wants to be participating. But that truth, once you move beyond that environment, no longer became true. But it was true at one point. And what I've realized is we live in a world where you have a lot of people that have only lived in kind of one demographic, one area. And so we see these hardships for other people, or we see these situations and we want to help, yet we don't really know what's true there. We only know our truth. We only know our truth in our environment.
Tell me about how when we met, and it's nothing, I love my family, but when you got around my family and the things that you thought that you knew was different than what you saw. So you said, well.
So I grew up in Northern California, pretty mixed demographic. I went to school for a time in Oakland area because my parents worked in Oakland, so it was easier for us to go to elementary school there because they would drop us at school before they went to work, go to work, and then we would take Bart home. Imagine this, like my brother, who was probably 12 or 13 at the time, was the oldest, and then the rest of us, all with him supervising, taking Bart home to these into where we lived in Walnut
And you
Creek.
guys were latchkey kids.
We were latchkey. So then my brother, he was responsible till my parents got off at night and came home. So we grew up in kind of a mixed environment, and I was always raised. My mom's half Puerto Rican, so I was raised kind of this idea that
no,
everybody's the same. We might look different on the outside. Some of us have blonde hair, some have brown hair. Our skin color is different shades, but we're all the same. And I grew up like that, and I grew up kind of with that idea of, there were people that are less fortunate that we should help. And then when I met him, and I realized that unfortunately a lot of
but I was dynamic because I had already, because for one, you met me, I was 23.
Yeah, we met in college, but then when I met his family, I was like, this can't be real. This is straight out from the movies, like only worse than they say in the movies. But it really was different than I realized. But it was cool. I was young. I was 18. I loved his family. They love to have fun. They know how to party. They know how to have a good time. So
Yes.
it was always a blast. I never felt out of place. Your family never made me feel any kind of way. Like, they embraced me. We had a good time. I was close with your family. But what happened is I grew up, and I grew out of kind of that party phase and grew up out of some of those childish ways, but then saw other people not growing and realized that kind of was a cultural thing. Like, remember we went out to California and we had been working a ton, and we took a vacation, went out to California, and talking to your family, I was, how you doing? Hey, we just needed a vacation. And one of our family members saying, I need a vacation too. We've had parties every single weekend for the last 2 months. I was like, what a life. What a life that you need to take a vacation from all your parties. Not a vacation from a job. Not a vacation from going to school. Just a vacation from your social life.
No, it's been, that you say that, it's like, and probably what prompted this the most is that we get a lot of hate. Like, I'm a black conservative Christian. What? You can't be all of those things. For one, we only think one way. So for me, I tell this story all the time about me going to the gym. And when I went to the gym, it put me around people because, and you know what, I gotta take this back. So look, when I was in the second grade, my mom, I don't know you guys, so school choice. We're just gonna break it down. My mom had opportunity for school choice. My mom bused me to Tulsa Elementary School, and then she bused me to Patrick Henry Junior High School, and she bused me to Granada Hills High School. So I was supposed to be in Hyde Park Elementary School. I was probably supposed to be in John Burroughs Junior High School, and then LA High School or Dorsey High School. But I went to these schools in the Valley, and it had a different perspective for me. I got to be around people of different nationalities, Indians, white people, Mexican. Well, I grew up around Mexicans a lot, and just where I live. But I got to be around all these different groups of people, and what I realized is we all had the same struggle. We all struggled in algebra. We all struggled in English. We all struggled in typing. All these things that we struggled in, and it made it where it was no different. So when I come out of, so I decided that because I had hooped in the summer with my buddies, that I didn't want to represent a school that didn't represent my neighborhood. So in the 11th grade, I came to LA High School, and I decided that I wanted to be with I'm looking at the dogs. Look, she went under the thing. I'm looking at the dogs, and I wanted to represent where I had come from. And I wanted to see how far we can go because we had a ball playing ball all the time. You know, I think it was the best competition. And don't get me wrong, hey, when I was out in the Valley, hey, they were competitive. And they actually, in my 10th grade year, the varsity team won the championship. So it was real out there. So I come to LA High, and hey, I felt like I wanted to represent my neighborhood because that's where I grew up at. And the beautiful part about that is my mom put me around people that wasn't just like me. So it forced me. Don't get me wrong. Hey, you still had I remember junior high school, and I'll never forget this day. It was he was a rolling 60, and one was a schoolyard crib. And these dudes had a fight. And I thought, man, so we brought game banging to the valley. Right when I thought, hey, everything was good, hey, you go right back on the defensive. And, I grew up a certain way where you had to protect yourself. You had to be hard. You had to be all these things. And they came right back to that. But when I got to Granada, hey, I decided I didn't want to be at Granada. I went to LA High. I graduated from LA High. I went to West LA Community College. I went to Santa Monica for a minute. I got a scholarship. But mind you, I had been working out. So when I started going to the gym when I was 17 and a half years old, my mom signed me up. And they put me around people that was movie stars and people that was famous. But at that time, they didn't have cell phones. So those guys, they didn't have gyms at their house. They just worked out at the regular gym.
They were some incredible doctor.
Or doctors. And they were black. But I remember when I was growing up, it was like, well, we just poor. And I never understood why we was poor. Because I said, well, are we really being held back? So when I got to that point, I realized that it was a choice that you make. It was a thing that you do. And did you have to go against your grain? Absolutely, because everybody thought that way.
But here's the challenge. If you're told your whole life that you don't have a shot, your whole life that you're being oppressed, eventually you're going to believe it. And if you don't ever get outside that bubble to see that it actually isn't that way, that isn't true, if you in the bigger world it isn't true, then you're stuck. Like people tell me, you make sure you teach your kids about white racism and white privilege. And I said, what? No way am I going to put an anchor on my children and then ask them to soar. No way am I going to weigh them down with a burden that isn't their reality. It isn't their reality. No way am I going to put that burden on them and then ask them to soar. So tell me this. Tell me any good parent that has a child with a disability. Are you going to tell your child that they can do anything that they put their mind to? That yes, they might have a challenge over here, but you know what? You have these skills, and anything you put your mind to with these skills, you're going to accomplish whatever you want. That's a crazy dog.
Apparently he wants some attention. And I know, so here's the thing, I know we're going to catch some flack behind this Facebook Live because we've had some drinks. I had a bunch of sake. So to tell you about, and I said, let's rub in date night to people. Because people think that, hey, because you this or you that you can't do what you want to do. But here's the thing, you got the freedom to do whatever you want to do.
I'm reading a book right now, and it actually is talking about the women's rights movement and women's suffrage. And it said that women had to go out there and demand their respect as opposed to and fight, as opposed to just go out and do it.
Hey, tell them about the story you said about, so how did women's live, or women, is it feminists?
The feminist movement was actually really a conservative movement in America to start. So the feminist movement, they were actually against the legalization of alcohol because they didn't like their husbands coming home drunk beating on them. So they thought that alcohol should be illegal and that it was evil. They fought for women's rights. And what happened is it turned into this evolution, like the whole evolution of the women's rights. And when they first looked at that, they were looking at how much, at that time they were taking like Valium or those kind of things they didn't have antidepressants, but they took tranquilizers to numb themselves. And because they were so unhappy, well, then you look at how much antidepressants women take today with all these freedoms that we've been given, and we're just as unhappy. And it talks about, yes, there were rights that we had to go after, and there were things that we had to go after, but sometimes in fighting for something that you don't have yet, you miss the blessing of what you already have. So it talked about that at that time, they had just come out of the Great Depression where, you know, mothers used to have to sew together the quilt, not because of cute halftime or pastime, but to actually warm their family in the winter. And they had to go harvest, and they had to plant, and they had to make sure that they had a good harvest to feed their family in the winter. And then all of a sudden there was this boom where then we have the housewives of the 50s and 60s that just had to keep a clean house, have a meal on the table when their husband came home, and look pretty. And how demeaning that was, because women were meant to work. Well, we have the ability to just go out and do it. Nobody has to tell me my value. Nobody has to tell me what I'm worth. I can go out and show my worth. I can prove my worth to myself and my God. And the world is telling us right now that somebody else has to tell you what your value is. If you're black, somebody has to tell you your value. So, if you're white, somebody has to put you in your place so to make sure somebody else doesn't feel slighted. And the thing is our value only comes from God.
And what I'll say again, and if it makes total sense, that yes, so you had slavery, you had all these things. You remember that people had conquered people over time, just in history. So you had these people that experienced that had a belief, and they made a decision with the belief that they had. But then once they got new information, that belief couldn't be the same because they knew that it was different. And I trip out right now with these BLM movements and all these things. Like, my mind has been blown. We wearing masks to meet people. You're thinking, so with all this going on, like, the conditioning has been going on for a while, because now think about how antisocial people are with their cell phones. Mm-hmm. People can be put in the crowd and not even be participating in that crowd. So hey, let's go to dinner where we all just look at our cell phone. I've seen that joke on Facebook a million times. I invited 6 people over to my house and we all just looked at our phone because we all want to. Then that's the real. Like,
we're being dehumanized.
Yeah, we need community. Community is what's important for us. And yet...
And how do we really have an understanding of what other people are going through?
No,
what
nobody knows.
other challenges are going through, except for being in close community.
What about
you don't find like out about people by your friendship on Facebook or casual interactions. You find out about people and what their life looks like by being in close community. And what's funny is when you get to be in that close community with people, you realize that our challenges are not that unique.
And what's crazy is that you say that your family, you don't get to pick. I picked her because she had values that matched my values. And we've had to grow together, and we went through some things. Like her walk with God is different than my walk with God. Mm-hmm. But we've decided that it's important to us. It's important to not just us, but to our kids as well. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go there because, hey, you got people, I got relatives talking about, well, you got white privilege. I'm like, she's with a brother.
Like, I've been with
him
since I was 18 years old.
Hey,
I'm 43.
We taking our kids to shoot guns. Why you got a problem with it?
Like, he provides my life. My privilege that I have with my being home with my children, he provides. This dude over here provides that privilege for me. Like, the privilege.
But I'm oppressed.
But
and we live this. Hey, like I said, we're all rich.
But
we are all rich.
Here's what makes me angry: is this lie is being told to people, but that haven't been outside of their world to know that it's any different.
So we just feel pity on them.
Yes,
we feel pity on them
then you've got people like I've had white women from Chandler that clearly are not married to a black man tell me about my racism. That's special.
Look at the laugh.
Like they
for real.
literally tell me about my racism.
Oh my God, you're landing with a black man every
Like,
night,
and
you
if
think
they
about
justify-
owning him.
Yeah. Well, in some ways I do.
You think about owning him. He does what you want to do, and such, and all this. No.
And I think about like these people, they're teaching their children that. I'm sorry, I don't want you teaching your children that, because then if you have the little asshole, he really is going to think that he's better than my kid that has brown skin.
Yeah, I need to
That's
wear.
the problem, is if we teach our children white privilege, you think that there aren't some little assholes out there. I'm sorry, I'm calling children that. But you think that there aren't some little assholes out there that are going to use that as their justification for being a little asshole.
Oh my God! Look, you know
Well,
what?
you know what? I
Listen
have
to
white
this.
privilege. I'm sorry.
Hey, look, bro. Look, here's the thing. I'm gonna go out because I know you're black and you're oppressed, and I'm gonna go speak for you because
Like,
I
I'm
have
sorry,
a bigger
my
word
kids-
than you do.
My kids are blessed. They are a gift. Everything about them is a gift. There is not an ounce of oppression in those little souls. They can do whatever they want in this world. And don't you come and tell me that I need to teach my kids anything different. If you want to be ignorant and teach your children, try to fight. But they want to fight racism with more racism.
Oh my God!
Like,
so here's the thing.
it
so
isn't
look,
work. Like, and this whole thing that I've seen recently, like, we had to pull our kids from our school district, not just because of all the COVID stuff, but then finding out that our school board is literally out there teaching oppression and teaching this white privilege crap.
Hey, so
And
when did
it's
we
some-
first discover this? So check this out. When our ex and Ella were first, 2 years ago, our kids on Black History Month, they came
Come
home
home
afraid.
upset. All of a sudden upset.
Sleeping in our bed and on the floor.
'Cause
And I
they
gotta be
all-
by you because my skin is dark.
Yeah,
Wait
so
a
our
minute.
kids are being, instead of coming home Black History Month feeling empowered, feeling like they came from some incredible strength, some incredible people that overcame adversity that none of us can even fathom. Instead of them coming home with that strength, they came home with a fear.
Yeah.
That is somebody gonna do something to me because my skin is black? It wasn't their reality. Don't fucking teach them that shit. Hi, baby. Aren't you supposed to be
spitting out
asleep?
water on the floor.
Tell her she needs
Go
to clean it
clean
up
it
right
up.
now.
She's like, look
And
at
tell her she'll be in trouble.
And there they
Because
are.
a spanking ain't off the table off in here.
No. So here's the thing: is I've been so bothered because we're going in the wrong direction. We're going in the wrong direction. Like, I look at how I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I look at how these kids are growing up. Like, I feel like the 80s and 90s, like, we all knew, like, we had made a leap forward.
Yeah.
Like, that was when, like, all the new artists came out and hip hop culture
I like
really
Wham.
started being.
I like Wham.
Yeah,
I like the
like that whole culture, like music really
George
started
Michael.
breeding. I can't talk. Bringing too much
That's a
sake.
sake.
That's a sake. Music had really started bringing people together, and you started seeing all these crossovers. And now we're in 2020,
And we
and
retro
we
back.
can't, like,
It's like it's 1920.
it's insane. It is absolute insanity.
What is that?
Oh, that was Laura, I think.
Oh.
So it's hard. I look at my kids. I look at all their friends. I mean, they have.
They so here's the thing, the little white girls come over here and they just come over and play and spend the night and it's just nothing.
And our kids go to
Go to their
their
house.
house, and like everybody, guess what? They're all just kids. If we don't teach them racism, guess what? That
They know
isn't
you're-
their reality.
Yeah, so stop.
why implant it into their brain? Why are we putting our crap, our baggage here? You know what? We've been carrying around this bag of crap
Hand it
all
off
our
to my
life.
boy.
You make sure you got to carry the bag of crap now too.
Xavier, here, put this backpack on, son. Here's a brick. You're black.
No.
You're oppressed. Hey, it won't be fair for you, I guarantee. But look, you got to work twice as hard as the white man. Here, I'm going to put all these bricks in your backpack. Now, son, I need you to go soar.
It's not going to
The
happen.
hell with that.
I want more for our family. I want
Really?
more from our kids. I want more for all our family. Like, I feel for our family that's stuck in that mentality of being told. So our niece that said to me, I have white privilege, I was talking to him, and I just wanted to make sure to let her know that regardless, that I got nothing but love for her and our family. Like, they know by now that we would do anything.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What made me sad is I realized that I'm probably the only white person she's ever known.
Interacted with that way.
Ever. And I'm not that's not a stretch. That's probably reality. But she's been told by the world, by the mainstream media, by all this, that white people don't care about black people, and she believes it. And I tried to tell her, like, that's not the truth. Like, that's so far. Yes,
I'll
you
tell you what's
have
different.
assholes. You have assholes. And you're going to have... Assholes aren't going to go away.
No.
But we teach our kid, judge each individual on their individual character. Sometimes if somebody says something mean to you, it's because they're a jerk. It's not about you.
And most time people only hate up.
Yeah.
So, hey, they're not going to stomp a cockroach. They're going to see somebody and say, hey, you doing it better than I do. So, you know what, I need to not like you. And that's like the reality, but people see it in a whole nother way. This person doing such and such because I'm this color. But come on, like, you got to have your brains
Look at
over
our
your
children.
color. You got to look at things and say, hey, this can be different if I just see it different.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get off here. We're just been on here too long.
That's because the sake.
I know, and you know what? We got to get on here more because I got a lot more to say. I could talk about this for hours, but I won't
And we'll come back.
because.
More.
And look, this video is gonna piss people off, but you know what?
We're already pissing.
Shit.
No, at this point,
Hey,
I'm over
our lifestyle pisses people off. We live. So I told people I live a life. So what I perceived as rich when I was younger, I've exceeded already, and then I realized it wasn't nothing. So one of the God's greatest gifts is unanswered prayers.
Mm-hmm.
He said, hey, well, here's the thing, bro. You want that, you're going to be shortchanging yourself. So, hey, if you didn't give me that, but then you take it to another level, and I went through this stress and this struggle, like I did the thing about perseverance and how our suffering is perseverance. It gives you more strength.
Mm-hmm.
Unanswered prayers is one of the biggest things you can experience, because what you think you know, because you're operating at a human level, you don't know, because God sees it. He's tenfold ahead of you, but you thinking, hey, maybe it might be only the next 3 years or maybe the next 5 years. But he's looking 20 years down the road, 15 years down the road for what can be great for you. And I think about that all the time when I'm living my life, because sometimes I'm frustrated because I say it's got to be more than what it is. But I know, because I have faith in God, and I know that it's God's will that keeps me going. So some of you guys have to think about that. You just have to think about that, because it's all about the blessings. That sometimes it's just unanswered prayers because you thinking at the human level and you don't get it.
And God has so much bigger for us than we
Yes.
have for ourselves.
Yes.
If you trust and you love other people, and that's the thing, is if we could get back to a place where we just love other people and stop judging groups. Stop saying that you belong in this group and so you're this way or you're this. How about we get back to judging individuals and holding individuals accountable? Stop trying to hold a whole group accountable for one individual's actions.
Yeah, it saddens my heart. It saddens my heart because, like, I tell her all the time, I say, look, I can't, so there's certain things I can't see or I can't experience because I can't unsee them. So when I meet somebody in their interaction, whether I'm selling something or I'm meeting them just as on a friend level, I can't go into it with an even keel. I go into it with them having X amount of strikes on their board prior to me meeting them. So it's not fair. So
You gotta go. You gotta.
You
gotta let. You can't take someone's sin, someone's mistakes, and put it on the next person that maybe looks a little bit like
doesn't
them.
even know.
You can't do that. You gotta judge, because I'll tell you, the
By the
person that you're
content of their
judging,
character.
the person you judge, you might be missing out on a blessing.
Yes.
You might be missing out on somebody that could be a huge blessing in your life if you just took the opportunity to get to know somebody that maybe looked different than you, or acted different than you, or liked things different than you, and maybe just get to know people. Like, we need to get to know who individuals are, because we'll realize that we start looking for people that way, we're going to find people have way more in common than we realize.
So tell them what we laughed about in the car. Oh, so changing the note. So the one what we laughed about in the car.
No, I don't want to talk about
that. So I said,
no.
My nose was all crunchy. And I said, man, I got serious crunchy boogers. You get boogers in Arizona, just for anybody. You come out here.
I said, you want a tissue?
You get diamonds. I said, no. I said, you ever built anything with a booger?
I said, no. Like, who does that? That's Lasaki.
I'm sure.
That was Lasaki.
She's built some with a booger too.
No. How do you do that? You are gross. I wonder why our son is gross.
That's why he's never sick too.
I know, because he has an incredible immune system, because he is gross.
Herd immunity, baby.
He created his own little herd immunity with all the nasty eating off the floor since he was a baby.
So let's get off of here.
All right.
You want to finish it?
All right. That's it. Hope Dealer, Persistent Mitchell. We will catch you next time. If you're catching this on the replay, type in replay. Let us know your thoughts.
Hey.
And we're not afraid of opposing views.
And we know.
But don't be afraid to get something back.
Yes. You see this right? You see this bookshelf behind us?
We do a lot of reading.
Yes.
There's a lot of reading. Reading across on everything. So
it's different. We just different.
Yeah.
And I love you guys all, and the Persistent Mitchell, and I'm signing out.